Lately, something about these races just feels off. Maybe you've noticed it too. The speed is still there, the intensity hasn't disappeared, but there's a certain spark missing. That raw sense of driver control that used to pull you to the edge of your seat every single lap, it just doesn't hit the same anymore. And the interesting part, this isn't just fans talking. There's a real tension building inside the garage. Frustration is growing, and it's no longer being kept behind closed doors. Drivers are starting to openly question the very core of how these races are being run. We're not talking about minor adjustments anymore. The conversations happening right now could seriously reshape the future of NASCAR racing. So if you care about where the sport is heading, this is something you don't want to ignore. Quick pause. If you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe. This is NASCAR Nation Report, and we're building a community of real fans who live and breathe the sport. Let's push toward 100 subscribers together. Now here's where things really get intense. There's a growing movement among multiple drivers to rethink, or even completely scrap, the intermediate racing package used at tracks like Charlotte, Kansas, and Las Vegas. And if you've been watching those races recently, you can probably understand why. The main issue comes down to how these cars behave under the current rules. Drivers across the board are saying the same thing in different ways. The cars rely too much on aerodynamics and not enough on driver skill. Right now, NASCAR's setup leans heavily on high downforce with limited horsepower. On paper, it sounds perfect. Cars running close together, tight competitions, side-by-side battles. And yes, sometimes it delivers that. But there's a major downside that's becoming impossible to ignore. Clean air has become everything. When a driver is out front, the car feels smooth, stable, almost effortless to control. They can hit their line, manage the pace, and dictate the race. But the moment they fall back into traffic, it's a completely different story. Dirty air from the cars ahead disrupts everything. The balance is gone. The driver isn't racing the track anymore. They're battling the air itself. The front end loses grip, the car tightens up, and instead of chasing speed, they're just trying to regain control. And that's exactly where the frustration is boiling over. Here's your rewritten version with the same meaning, stronger flow, and a more engaging tone. One of the biggest frustrations drivers keep bringing up is how limited these cars feel. Everything operates within such a tight window that there's barely any room to experiment. You're not exploring different racing lines. You're not working the throttle like drivers used to. Instead, you're just trying to hold the car together while dealing with turbulent air. Think about what that means for the sport. NASCAR was built on drivers managing tire wear, carefully controlling throttle input, and searching for speed across multiple lines during long runs. That's what separated the great drivers from the rest. But now many drivers are saying those elements don't carry the same weight anymore. Throttle control isn't as critical, tire wear doesn't play as big a role, and passing often comes down to airflow rather than pure skill. That's a huge shift in what racing used to be. To be fair, NASCAR didn't land here by mistake. There was a clear intention behind this package. The goal was to create tighter packs, keep cars closer together at high speeds, and manage overall speeds for safety, especially on fast mile-and-a-half tracks. From a safety and consistency perspective, it makes sense. But from a racing perspective, many drivers feel like it's gone too far. Instead of consistently rewarding the most skilled driver, the system can end up favoring whoever gets track position first. And that's something a lot of people in the garage aren't happy about. Now the conversation has moved beyond small tweaks. Drivers are pushing for real, meaningful changes. There's growing talk about completely removing the intermediate package, boosting horsepower across more tracks, and cutting back on aerodynamic dependence to put control back into the driver's hands. The objective is simple: make the cars challenging to drive again. And to NASCAR's credit, there are signs they're paying attention. We've seen adjustments in horsepower at certain tracks, and some venues have been reclassified away from the traditional intermediate setup. But the core tracks still rely on this system, which is why the debate continues to gain momentum. At the heart of it all, NASCAR is trying to balance three things: safety, entertainment, and fair competition. Drivers, on the other hand, are asking for something more straightforward. They want a car that truly tests their ability. And as fans, you can feel that conflict. Sure, we enjoy close racing, but we also want to see drivers earn their positions. We want tire strategy to matter. We want mistakes to have consequences. We want to see drivers hunting for grip, taking risks, and adapting over time. That's what made NASCAR special in the first place. So now the big question is, what comes next? Does NASCAR continue making gradual adjustments, or do they take a bold step and reset things entirely? Because if this package is eventually scrapped, we could be looking at a completely new style of racing, and that could define the next era of the sport. Now I want to hear your take. Should NASCAR completely move on from the intermediate package, or just fine-tune it? Drop your thoughts in the comments and let's get the conversation going. And honestly, my own view is pretty clear. I think the drivers have every right to push back this strongly. When you watch races at tracks like Charlotte or Kansas, it's obvious how much the outcome depends on track position rather than pure driving talent. The leader gets clean air and controls the race, while everyone behind is stuck battling their own cars instead of each other. That's not what built this sport. For me, the biggest issue isn't even the reduced passing, it's the lack of challenge. Racing used to feel like a constant balancing act. Drivers were managing tires, throttle, racing lines, and car behavior over long runs. Now, once the car hits that perfect window, everything feels too predictable. And I understand why NASCAR designed it this way. Safety matters. Keeping the field close adds excitement. But if the trade-off is taking control away from the driver, then yeah, something needs to change. Here's your final section rewritten with the same meaning, smoother flow, and a more engaging, original tone. So do I think NASCAR should completely move away from the intermediate package? Honestly, I wouldn't be against it at all. Bringing in more horsepower and dialing back the downforce could immediately change the feel of the racing. It would put more responsibility back in the driver's hands. You'd start to see more mistakes, more variety in performance, and more moments where true talent actually decides the outcome. That said, it's unlikely NASCAR makes a drastic change overnight. Realistically, they'll keep making small adjustments step by step. But if the pressure from drivers keeps building and fans continue to feel the same disconnect, then at some point a bigger shift is going to be unavoidable. Because at its core, NASCAR is at its best when the driver is the biggest factor on the track. And right now, a lot of drivers don't feel like that's the case. If you're into real, honest NASCAR discussions like this, make sure to like the video and subscribe to NASCAR Nation Report. We're a growing channel pushing toward 15,000 subscribers, built by fans who truly care about the sport. I'll catch you in the next one, because what happens next could change everything. Right now, drivers are making it clear they want to move away from the current intermediate package used at tracks like Charlotte, Kansas, and Las Vegas. Their demands are simple: more horsepower, less reliance on aerodynamics, and cars that once again require real skill to handle. The message coming out of the garage couldn't be clearer. They want control back. Now the decision sits with NASCAR. Do they continue tweaking things little by little, or do they take a bold step into a completely new direction? From a fan's perspective, this is one of the most exciting turning points we've seen in years. You can feel the tension building. Because this isn't just about one rules package or a handful of races. This is about the identity of NASCAR moving forward. If NASCAR embraces these changes, we could see a return to the kind of racing where drivers are constantly working, managing tires, adjusting lines, pushing the limits, and creating passes instead of waiting for clean air to do the job. If not, the noise inside the garage is only going to grow louder. Either way, something is coming, and as fans, we're right in the middle of it. Moments like this don't come around often. This is how eras shift in NASCAR. Not instantly, but through growing pressure, louder voices from drivers, and fans pushing for something that feels authentic again. Whether it happens this season or sometime down the road, the direction of the sport is being shaped right now. So keep your eyes on this, because the next move NASCAR makes won't just be another minor adjustment. It could completely redefine how we experience racing every single weekend.